Alright, so here once again is our case, looking very, very, very nice. It looks like this door actually swings open on this side. There are actually hinges over here, so we don't have to unscrew any thumb screws or anything to get into this side. The back side of the case still has thumb screws we'll have to undo. But the front of it should just be able to swing open if we undo. I guess these are our screws over here. So we'll take those out one at a time. One reason I've always been skeptical of glass windows is keeping them looking nice seems like a hassle, so hopefully I can manage to do okay on that front here. Okay, so wow, this thing does just swing open. That's really weird, man. Looks really nice, that feels really nice. It feels like very high quality material there. Okay, so there's that. That's how you open this thing up. And inside of our case, we do get an accessory box, appropriately labeled. And inside of there, we've got, not sure if this is a booklet. Yeah, it looks like a booklet with some information. User's manual, it says, actually. Nice. We'll set that up top for now. And we've got tech support links for the case. We've got a box full of screws. Very, very nice that they actually give you a box with separators in it. Very cool. And then here we've got Velcro straps, we've got zip ties. They give you everything you need to make your computer look nice here. And inside of this styrofoam is, I'm not sure what that is. If we slide this out, this is a cover of some sort. So it probably goes somewhere in here optionally. Maybe it's an SSD mount or something. That's probably what it is for 2.5-inch SATA SSDs, if I had to guess. We might find out what that is later. For now, I'll put it back in the box, and we'll put that right back up here. Okay, so my desk actually doesn't have room right now for me to lay this thing down on its side, so it might be a little tricky for us to install our motherboard here. I'm gonna grab our setup guide and just see if it tells us which screws to use for the motherboard. Number 8, motherboard installation on page 14. Motherboard installation, okay, what do we got here? Standoff screws are pre-installed for ATX, perfect. Yep, it looks like all 9 of our standoffs are pre-installed indeed. And the screws we want to use are going to be M3. And that's all that there is on that entire page, is just standoff screws are pre-installed, install the motherboard with the provided M3 screws. So if we grab our box here, which ones of these are M3 is the next question. So we probably got a list in here. Alright, screw M3 by 5mm motherboard, quantity 23. Looks like it's rounded, Phillips. Okay, so I'm pretty sure that's the middle on the top row here. Just looking at all these screws. So we'll take some of those out here. Should need 9 for our motherboard. We pop open our box. Yep, that looks like a motherboard screw. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9. Okay. Close that for now. Now there are some really long, like twisty ties and stuff kind of sticking out of our case here. I'm gonna pull those out. Okay, and actually we should pin in our I/O shield before we put the motherboard in, so I'll do that as well here. This is a fan header, it looks like. Already ran through the back of the motherboard here. To motherboard CPU fan, okay. And it looks like we do have some connectors in here. This one says, connect this connector with Fantex multicolor LED strips only. So obviously we don't have any LED strips. We're not spending money on lights. So not going to be using that one. But we will go ahead. Oh my, there are a lot of cords on the other side of this case. I'm just trying to get this wire out of our motherboard area here. There we go. Let's take this I/O shield out of the bag and I'll pop this in the back here. Not sure how well you'll be able to see that. Well, if we move our camera here, you'll be able to see it. I forgot I'm trying to make this one a really, really good video for you guys, so I will zoom that in. So I always have trouble with these I/O shields, but it does look nicer if you put them in. The only real functional purpose they serve is keeping dust out of the computer, which since this case is very well designed and has a lot of dust filters, I guess I'd like to keep that going. Alright, so looking at the motherboard right over off the frame here, the 2 Ethernet ports are going to be at the bottom of our case here, and everything else at the top. So we'll just pop this I/O shield in. Okay, I think I just got it in. yeah, I just did the top all at once, and then I did one bottom corner, the other bottom corner, and now the I/O shield is in. All right, so that was one of the easier ones to install. Sometimes these things are a big pain for me, but that one went pretty well, so I'm glad I decided to attempt it. At this point, we'll move the entire camera back, and this next section I do apologize in advance, because it is probably just going to look like me standing in front of the camera a lot. But we're going to grab our motherboard, and we are going to try and install it here. I'm going to change the tip of my screwdriver to a slightly bigger Phillips head. Alright, so here's our motherboard, still in its nice styrofoam. We're actually going to cut the zip ties off of this side so that we can take the motherboard out of the styrofoam here. And this motherboard feels very solid. Definitely got some weight to it, which is a good thing. It is going to make installation here on our side a little bit awkward, but I think we can manage it. Generally, you do want to lay your case down when you do this, but like I said, my desk doesn't exactly have room for it right now. So unless I want to go through a whole lot of work rearranging my room right now and moving stuff around, I think we'll go ahead and try and make do as is. So, okay. Alright, that was not bad at all. So we've got the motherboard lined up with the screw holes right now. Just looking. Yep, I think that they are all lined up. So we are going to start grabbing screws and screwing those in to keep our motherboard in place here without me holding it. We'll start with the top right corner because it's easy. I can grab a screw on my screwdriver here. Alright, screwing this in. So not the best way to do it, but I think, yeah, this is going okay. So grab another screw, put it on the screwdriver. Alright, at this point the motherboard's kind of holding itself in, especially with the one screw I already put in, so I can help my screwdriver get a grip on the other screws here. Okay, put number 2 in there. Alright. See, I thought that was going to be way more stressful than it actually was. This is an extremely easy build. Very happy with how all of these parts are working together here to make this job easy. And let me know, guys, if you think that this build video is going better than the previous build videos I've done in the past on this channel. Like I said, I've gotten a lot of negative feedback on my previous build videos. Every time I built a computer. This was one of the first series I ever did on this channel, was building a computer, and I've done several more throughout the years. There's actually 1 or 2 that I've recorded with other people building their computers and didn't even publish, just because I knew that the reception was not going to be very good. But this one I'm trying to go through, explain everything that's going on, and of course the build itself is desirable this time, which is always a good thing for videos. So let me know what you think down in the comments below, or at the forums at nerdonthestreet.com, or you can comment below this video on nerdonthestreet.com. If you're watching on YouTube, if you go to nerdonthestreet.com, you can watch all of my videos there as well, and there's actually an entirely separate comment section just for people watching on my website. All you have to do is register, it's free, and yeah, then you can leave comments over there too. So I'd love to see some comments over there letting me know what you guys think of this build. Okay, just 2 more screws here. Okay, and there is the very last one. Awesome. Wow, guys, this is looking really, really nice. I'm going to take the camera off the tripod here just for a second, because I want to bring this in and show you guys just how cool this is looking. This is looking really nice so far. Got our Ryzen CPU at the top, 32 gigs worth of RAM there. Coming down, we can see the M.2 SSD sitting right there in the middle, and it's only going to get better from here. Alright, putting it back on the tripod. Okay, the remaining things we need to install are our CPU cooler, our graphics card, our power supply, and an optical drive. We'll go ahead and I think we'll do the CPU cooler first, because I'm trying to make things as easy as possible. It'll be easiest to get that cooler on without the graphics card and everything else in the way. And actually, I think we're putting 2 graphics cards in this thing, because I've got one brand new Vega 64, and I've got another Vega that I got a while ago that's also going in here. So I'll explain that a little bit more when we get to it, but for now, I'm going to close this door gently, and going to get a few things off of my desk here, move some stuff around. And our CPU cooler that we're using today is going to be an EVGA closed-loop CPU cooler. Its model number is not written on the front of the box there. Well, you can see the part number written on the back. But this is a 280 millimeter radiator, which means that it has 2 140 millimeter fans in it. I wanted to go for 2 big fans rather than 1 small fan, because that's going to be more efficient and less loud. Even though I don't know why I'm worried about noise when I've got a portable air conditioner running in my room that you guys have probably heard this entire video. Still going to try and make the computer itself quiet by using large fans for my coolers. So you can see a picture of the thing on the top here. I have done a video about installing one of these on my old Intel i7 workstation. That was a Sandy Bridge model processor that I was putting a Corsair cooler on with one fan. But this thing is similar. This thing goes on top of the processor on this side, and then these fans are actually going to get stuck up top of this case. Not on the outside, but it'll be stuck on the inside on the top so that the hot air is blowing out the top of the case. That's why there's the dust filter. The one on the top won't actually do much, but there's also a dust filter on the bottom because that'll pull cool air in as well, naturally. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to set this way up here. We can just point our camera up, I guess. Boy, that's really bright in the corner there, isn't it? Let's try and zoom in, get some of that, get that shade out of the way. Turn that light off. Does that help? Is that better? We'll call that better for now. So we're going to slice into this packaging when I find out where we're supposed to. All right, we're going to turn it this way, I guess. And really confused here on how this is supposed to come open. Here we go. All right, that's working okay. Now that we've got a slice in the shrink wrap, we'll go ahead and just pull the rest off. And we can figure out how the box is actually supposed to open up. Alrighty. This was one of the few boxes that was actually shrink wrapped today. A lot of them were not shrink wrapped, which was actually more convenient for me. But we'll just throw all that plastic off the side and I will throw it away later. Okay, so how does this box open up? Is this one of those slide out boxes where we gotta go to the side with it? Yeah, it is. Okay. So this is actually just a skin on the outside. We'll unsheath it here, and there's another box on the inside. We can get that off. All right. These things look cool, but they're not too practical. That kind of packaging is not the first time I've run into that. So we'll set that off to the side as well. Here's the actual box. It says all the same stuff, but it doesn't have colored ink on it. So we will slice our tiny little seal open here, and now we can open this entire thing up. Okay, and if I carefully tilt this here, you can see, oh, or the entire box just comes apart. That works too. So here we've got an installation guide, which is helpful. We will probably reference that here. This thing does work with Intel and AMD motherboards. This guide doesn't actually list the AMD SM2 bracket as one of the options, but I am fairly certain that it's compatible because obviously I researched this stuff before I buy it, so we'll see what the actual deal is here. If we bring this styrofoam, if we just tilt this whole thing to the side, we've got a plastic bag with our brackets in it. Okay. So one of these is going to have to go on the other side of this case. We'll have to turn the entire thing around on my desk and take the other side off. Which is just a normal part of doing this. Here we've got a box, a cardboard box that'll probably have some more. Oh, that's actually got the fans in it. Okay. And then the top here we've got the part that goes on to the processor. But here are the fans. Wow, these are really big. Yeah, I didn't really get a sense of how big 140 millimeters was until right about now. But those are gigantic fans, which is good for cooling. And then I'm going to bring this styrofoam mess down here. And I'll just bring this entire assembly back up. So this is a closed loop system, which means we don't have a water tank or anything. All of the liquid is already in these tubes, and it'll just cycle around. We should have, yep, got some thermal paste pre-applied on the radiator there, because I didn't buy any extra thermal paste today since I knew that it had some. I didn't want to deal with using alcohol to get that off and then putting new stuff on. Okay, so we'll set that on our desk right here. We'll get this box out of the way. Alright, so at this point we're going to turn this other lamp back here back on to get us some more light. And I think the easiest way to do this is actually going to be to screw the fans onto the top of the case first, then worry about getting the piece that goes onto the processor to stick on there. Oh, okay, so we're actually not using any of the included brackets. The back plate for AMD motherboards are supplied with the motherboard, it says right here. And actually, I'm pretty sure I mentioned that earlier, that was in our motherboard box. Let me go hunt that down. Okay, so actually, according to this thing, the bracket actually goes on the front, just over the CPU, not actually the back. So we might not have to turn this thing around at all. which would once again go back to that whole AMD making it easier for us to put our computer together thing. And you know what, guys? I actually think that the bracket itself might be pre-installed from what I'm seeing. We might already have the bracket in the motherboard, because the manual here seems to assume that you're installing a liquid cooler, or at least an auxiliary cooler that doesn't come with the processor. So I think all we might have to do is put this piece from the liquid cooler onto the processor and screw it in. We are about to run out of space on my camera right now, so I'm going to pause this. I'm going to figure out the best way to put all of this stuff in, and then after my SD card has been emptied onto my laptop, then we'll start up the recording again. Alright guys, and we are back. So I did find out that this plate that came in the styrofoam I was talking about with the case, this is actually a mounting bracket for a water cooling reservoir. Now, like I said, our water cooler is a closed loop system. It does not have a reservoir, so we don't have to use this. But if you've actually got a separate container of liquid feeding in and out of your computer, this can be used to mount it inside the computer if you want to, since there is so much extra space inside this thing. That is why this is in our package. Just wanted to mention that. So we'll put that away though, since we're not using it. And the only possible place we can fit our fans for this CPU water cooler is the top of the case, like I said. Alright, and there's actually no access to the screw holes from the top of this case. Even if we take the dust cover off, it's just a fan grill up there. So I've actually got my phone here. I'm gonna turn on the flashlight and point it upward. And I'm gonna bring the camera in here a bit. And we are gonna point this thing right up where I'm looking, where we are installing at the top of the case our radiator up here. Alright guys, I think I figured it out here. We actually have to take the front of the case off and then the top, and then we screw in the radiator from above. So the screws are actually going to come down into the radiator. That's why I was so confused about how we were going to get screws to go all the way through the whole radiator, because we don't have to do that. So I am currently pulling off the front of the case, which I know you can't see, but the front comes off first. Okay, and now the top should come straight off. No thumb screws or anything required for any of this. Very, very convenient. Okay, so the top is off, as you can see, and now we can grab our screw box here. Okay, and this is going to be a little easier. So I have just identified from our box that came with the case, that box, full of screws with all the separators in there. I just figured out which one of those screws does fit into our radiator. So now we're going to take 8 of those, and I believe they go in here, yep. These long holes here, I think that they are made that way so that you can sort of slide the radiator exactly where you want it. And you know what? Actually, the water cooler itself comes with a baggie full of smaller screws and also some little washers. So I'm actually going to use those, since it doesn't look like they're used in the installation of the CPU cooler. I'm going to pop those right under the screws on the top here so that those screws stop falling through the hole. There we go. That's much better. Okay. Come to think of it, we're just going to use the screws that came with the water cooler as well, since it looks like the longer ones that came with our case don't even fit entirely into the water cooler. So we will just use the screws provided with the water cooler itself. They're very, very small, so at first I wasn't sure if they would even, fit through our case and still have room to go into the water cooler, but I guess it's better to have the water cooler barely hanging on very tightly rather than having it with our super long screws. If it doesn't even screw all the way in, the water cooler or the radiator is just going to be hanging there a centimeter away from the top of our case, which we don't want. So we'll use the ones that came with the cooler, and we'll see how it goes. If it doesn't work, we can always switch them back. Alrighty, so at this point we're going to grab our cooler. I'm still working around this window that's hanging, from the case, the one we opened up earlier. But we're going to grab this here. I've got my screwdriver ready, so we're gonna bring this up here. We'll try putting it in this way first, this direction, with the tubes on the right side for now. I don't think that matters too much, but wanted to let you know which side it's on in case it does matter. So here we go. Okay. This is very awkward to work with. Alright, and I've got the screws more or less lined up. Okay, more or less. So I'm gonna move our cooler here so that it's not just hanging. There we go. I'm gonna grab my screwdriver and start screwing these in a bit. Okay, there we go. That was a pain to get started, but the rest of these should be fairly easy now. My slightly magnetized screwdriver is currently being more of a pain than it's worth. All right. Okay, I got 2 screws in, so now I can stop holding the entire thing. Great, and we'll just screw in the rest of these now. Hopefully this will provide adequate cooling and we will never have to deal with this again. All right. So, good. Found the one I hadn't screwed in yet. Okay, awesome. So that is securely mounted. All those screws are in there, all 8 of them. Okay, so that radiator, not going anywhere. That is stuck to the top. Now, we can worry about putting the part on the processor that needs to go on there. At this point, I'll go ahead and take our extra light away. Oh, actually, that was okay. What's giving us all that glare? Is it this one? Yep, that one again. Okay, we'll turn that light off for a while. Oh, if you want to help me get better lighting in this room, join the Nerd Club at nerdclub.knots.co for just $3 a month, and I'll use that money to purchase more professional studio lighting so I don't have to just switch lamps on and off throughout videos like this. But at this point, I did find out while the camera was off earlier that we've got a separate bracket that came with our cooler for AMD motherboards, which I think is this one. If I just hold this up to our motherboard. Okay, don't think it's that one. Okay guys, good news. I've just wasted a bunch of time looking for the correct bracket for this thing. I was getting a little concerned because the AMD bracket that came with the water cooler actually does not match up with the screw holes on this motherboard's included mounting screw holes for the water cooler. The included bracket is for the AM4 socket, which is older than the STR4 socket that we're using. The good news, though, is that I found out it was actually right here the whole time with the Ryzen packaging. In there, right where I pulled the screwdriver out of, there is also an included mounting bracket. This is included by AMD for free, and they decided to send out the bracket as part of the CPU so that everyone installing liquid coolers will have the correct bracket and not have to worry about it. So very, very nice on AMD's part. Really glad that that's there. I'll bet that EVGA is glad that it's there too, because that means that they didn't have to put that in. But now, if I hold this up, yeah, this goes onto the screw holes perfectly fine. So we're gonna move our camera down just a little bit, and we'll zoom in here. And I'll go ahead and mount our CPU cooler on the CPU. So this thing turns any which way. Which way do I want it right now? Looking at what's going to give us the easiest installation here with the least amount of pressure on all the parts. We probably want it like this. Or do we want it here? Let's do it here so that the EVGA is facing the proper way. Alright, so at this point we're getting to some of the touchy stuff. So we're going to take the plastic off of this cooler. Just a reminder, don't touch the gray stuff. That is your pre-applied thermal paste. If you touch it and it comes off, you're going to have to go out and buy a tube of more thermal paste, which I don't want to have to do. Another thing is you generally want to avoid getting dust on that thermal paste. My room is very dusty right now. I'm going to do the best I can here. To change the retention ring, turn the ring counterclockwise and remove the ring from the pump. So counterclockwise, not sure which direction it's thinking that we're facing, because this is counterclockwise looking at it, but this is counterclockwise looking at the cooler. Okay, so it was counterclockwise if you're looking at the cooler the way it's going to go onto the CPU, FYI. So now we take our retention ring that came with our processor, we're going to pop the retention ring, just place it here over the cooler, okay? Put it at sort of a diagonal angle wherever it goes in, and then we just turn the cooler, alright? Now this entire thing just sticks right onto our processor. That is way easier than the last time I installed a liquid cooler on my Intel processor, that is for sure. Yep, screw holes line up, and we've just got thumb screws to go in now. Wow, that was actually super easy compared to the last time I installed one of these. That was so much easier. Even with the having to hunt down, not knowing where the bracket was. That was still probably quicker than installing the other bracket where I had to take apart the other side of the case and put a bracket on there, hold it on both sides at the same time, screw in with a screwdriver while I was holding the bracket on the other side with the Intel design, whereas, yeah, AMD made for custom building, I guess, which is awesome. So I will just continue to screw in these thumb screws as far as they'll go. Top ones are going in a little bit farther there. Looks like we've got some plastic we can take off of our cooler here, I think. Yes. Just take that off the EVGA logo. There we go. And I think this thing lights up when we turn the computer on. We'll see what it looks like later. Okay. Whew. That was almost stressful, but yeah, they've got us covered. So that is great. This whole thing's looking great. We've got all kinds of weird shadows going on, but this is what this looks like right now. Okay, and then here we've got our plugins. So this goes to the motherboard, and then this goes to other fans, I guess. Okay, so the CPU fan is the one on the right here, or the CPU fan header is the one on the right, right above our top PCI port. I'll get my flashlight one more time. It's going to be right there, and I did just check the motherboard manual to make sure that's the right one. So we will just plug that in. Okay, that should be good to go there. Okay, I see. So then our fans at the top here of this entire thing do have hanging down from them some cords to turn on our additional light again. So these plug in here so that the cooler can control the radiator's fans. So we have 4 pins. We'll plug it into the 4-pin connector here. Okay, and that is in. So that's connected. That's the way that goes, and we might actually run that a little bit nicer through the back of the case a little bit later. For now, though, I'm going to back the camera up. I'm going to give you guys a better angle because I bet you're tired of looking straight up